AI agents are set to disrupt pretty much every single market that you can think of in 2025. In this video, I'm going to give you an entire crash course on AI agents. We're going to take a bird's eye view of the landscape and look at how AI agents are different from workflows, the different types of AI agents that you can build, how you actually think about building them. We're going to set a really solid infrastructure for you to work from in 2025 to both build agents, to understand agents, and to be able to navigate the AI landscape. So let's dive right into it. So my name is Ethan. I work for Smart Scaling AI. We build AI agents for companies. We built AI SDRs. We built AI marketing agents, and AI admin and CRM type agents. And so in this video, I'm going to show you what we've learned, what the difference are, and we're going to keep it fairly theoretical. We're going to talk about the AI agents as a whole rather than going into actual examples of how to build them out. So to start with, agents are much different from workflows. Workflows are essentially what you've seen if you've seen NAN, Make.com, all these different types of systems. You can build agents in NAN. You can kind of get close to agents with Make.com. But the core difference here is that a workflow has a predefined path. It's actually often more reliable in our current state of things, but you basically map out every single task you want the workflow to take. It's easier to maintain. It's a fixed sequence of steps, and it's much less complex than autonomous agents. Whereas agents, it's basically you give it every potential action step that it could take, and then you're basically just asking it questions. It's like kind of like ChatGPT, where you have a chat window, but rather than it just giving you answers, it's taking action. So you say, hey, send an email to this person. It will go to your Gmail. It will craft the email. It will send it off, or it will ask you if it's good. And then you click yes, and it sends it off. And so rather than just dialoguing with a chatbot type feature, you're asking it what you want it to do. And you've never built out the workflow for sending an email to someone before. You just give it all of the potential action steps that it could take. So you give it send email, create draft, forward email, CC someone. You give it all of those potential action steps. And then what it does is when you ask it to write an email and reply to a certain email, it just goes and it does that for you. It makes the decision, and it has much more advanced and complex workflows. You can see how this could start to get extremely advanced. If you say, hey, go source me 10,000 leads, personalize them, add them to my campaign. Whenever someone responds to me, reply to them. Use this knowledge base about our company to reply, book calls for me, or go out and build this system for a client, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you can think of it like this. You give the agent the goal that you want it to achieve, and then a workflow, you can think of a workflow like this. A workflow is you say you have to actually create this. You go to make.com NAN, you say whenever this happens, do this thing and then this thing, and maybe you filter and create a path where if this is true, do this. If this is not true, do this. What an agent does is it basically builds that workflow or takes those steps without you building it, right? So you say, hey, go source me 10,000 leads from Google and personalize messages for them. And it will basically say, okay, how do I do that? First, I need to go to Google. Boom, it will go to Google. It will get access to Google Search API. It will source those leads for you. It will personalize them. It will create a path, like the path of what decisions it's taking. It will come up with that itself. And as you ask it to do different things, like we can see here, it will adapt to new information. If you correct it, like right now with ChatGPT, you say, oh, that email was not very good. That piece of content was not very good. What you can think of here is as you correct it, rather than you having to go into make.com and then change the prompt, it's just updating in real time, and it's understanding and doing it better over time, and learning what decisions it needs to make, what paths it needs to take. And so as we've been talking about here, there's a huge difference between just chat-based models, LLMs, like ChatGPT, Claude, Google, Gemini, and agents. Because a chatbot, you're constantly having to give it input. You're giving it what to do. It provides text. It provides image generation. Whereas for an agent, it's completely autonomous and it's actually taking actions for you. So although the interface might look pretty similar, the interface is a chat window, but ChatGPT is just going to give you a response, and the agent's going to say, hey, thanks for telling me this. I went out and did all these things on your behalf. Does this sound good? And rather than you having to go and click all the buttons, it's doing all the button clicking for you. So it's basically an extremely advanced button clicker. And that may not sound too exciting, but when you think about what our jobs are in the 21st century, we're just button clickers. We have certain roles and responsibilities, and we're clicking buttons to make sure that those roles and responsibilities come to life, come to fruition. And so an AI agent is basically taking what you ask it to do and doing autonomous operations on your behalf with the apps that you want to do. And so now let's dive into what that actually looks like where we're at right now, and what it's going to look like in the future. So I've created a couple of videos on browser-based agents, created a couple of videos on, more of the workflow N8N type agents. As of right now, you have to understand either how to create API calls, LangChain. You have to understand a little bit more technical aspects of, building out systems in order to do this effectively, but give it 6 months, 12 months, a couple years, and we'll be in a place where you can just say, hey, I want an agent that does this, and then it will spin up an agent, you review it, now you have basically an employee, right? But for right now, what you can think of in terms of how the agents work and kind of the fundamental infrastructure of AI agents is that you give them certain documentation, you give them APIs, you connect them to all of those APIs that you want. You have to do some prompt engineering. You have to create what are the inputs of the system. And what will happen is as you give it all of the different essentially tool interfaces that you want it to have access to, you can think of it like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis in your role? You're going to this website or this tool, you're doing some things in that tool, you're pulling information from something. So let's say we want to do some, like an SDR. Okay, first I have to go to apollo.io, then I have to pull the leads, then I have to download that as a CSV, then I have to upload it into a different platform, I have to enrich it, I'm going to put it through AI and personalize it. I'm just going to a bunch of different softwares, clicking buttons and moving data in between those softwares. So what you can think of an agent as is someone that it's a construct, it's an object that is doing that for you, right? So you're saying hey, so in order to do this specific role, I go to Apollo, I use Google Docs, I write copy, I do XYZ. And basically what you're doing when you're building this agent is you're saying, okay, what is every potential action step, every single button, or type of thing that I would need to do on each of those platforms? You create it into a big list and you give the agent access to all of those different parameters, the parameter specs. You give it examples of what good looks like. You imagine if an error happens, what should happen, what is the error handling, and you're giving it descriptions. And basically what it's doing is you can think of it like this. So there's a chat. So there's the agent, the tool interface, but you can think of it like this. There's a chat over here. So this is the chat interface. And so whenever the chat interface happens, it calls the agent, and then the agent has an objective. You're giving the agent an objective, do this role or do something. And I think we're going to get to a place, and you could potentially run this where you just have this run on a scheduled basis every single day, right? I think over time you can say hey, I want you to source leads on a monthly basis with these parameters. Then over time it does it better, and you don't have to initiate it with a chat. But it doesn't really matter what the initial trigger is of the system. What you can see it as is it has access to all of these tools as APIs. And then you're basically, the agent is calling those tools. It's taking certain actions on those tools for you. And then it's getting data. So data is going back and forth here. We can think of this like this. So it's calling the tool and it's saying, hey, take these actions with this data. And then the tool is responding and it's saying, okay, I took that action on that data. Here's a response of all the data. And then it will basically have a documentation of here's all the things that got done. Were they successful or not? And then it goes back to you and it says, hey, I sent an email to this person, whatever. And so that's kind of the core aspect of the agents, how it's interacting with the environment. And you can think of it as, let's see, where do we want to go from here? So you can think of it as it's learning, it's getting better over time. And I don't want to go too technical in this video, but what you can think of it is as there's a couple different things, right? There's that's one of the videos getting published. So there's one agent. You can say like I have my AI lead sourcing agent. It's gonna, and then I have my AI SDR or my AI like outreach agent that's responding to emails. Then I have the AI enrichment agent if we're thinking about sales. And one of the more complex things you can build is a multi-agent system. So these are still pretty complex to build, and they tend to break more. But what you can think of it as is you have this knowledge base of all of these agents, and then you have the shared knowledge base. What's happening is you have kind of this, you can think of it as like a meta agent, or there's an agent that calls other agents. So it's right now the agent can't do too complex of tasks. You can't just have like an AI sales agent. The AI sales agent is really 4 different agents that are all doing different roles and responsibilities inside of a sales role. And the meta agent is calling each of those individual agents to do specific things, right? So you can think of it like where agents are going is that the more complex that agents are able to operate, the more that you can have one agent do many different tasks, such that you don't need to have a bunch of different separate agents. And so we can think of this like, so this is where something like RAG comes in. So RAG is called retrieval augmented generation. But what you need to know is that essentially there's a couple core things that agents are going to be doing and core things that you need to know. So for an agent to work, there needs to be a couple different components. So let's go into this. So there's a couple different things. You have the core like LLM. So you have ChatGPT, Claude. These are the core base LLM models. And then you have memory tracking. So this is essentially you're adding in what is called a vector database, but you can just think of this as like a database that can hold a very large complex set of data. And so let's say like you want an AI SDR. In the vector database, you might have all of the current emails that are in your system. Every time a new email comes in, the database gets updated. And then as well as context awareness. So you put the knowledge base of what are your products, what are the core, marketing PDFs that you've created around the jobs, pains and gains of your customer. And then it's able to have that as a memory, a knowledge base. And then it's being able to have what is called RAG, retrieval augmented generation, which basically all this means is that it's a way for the core LLM to pull information out of the memory store. And then you give it access to certain tools in order to take actions. And so think of it like this. You input information, you say, hey, send an email. It's saying like, okay, I need to first get that email. So it's going to retrieve the email. Once it retrieves the email, it says like, okay, I need to know what tone of voice to send to create a response in. And so then it like creates the response using the knowledge base of the products that you've given it. It then is pulling from this knowledge base, and then it's creating the email and it's sending it. And then if you give it feedback, it's getting better over time. So that's a way to think about it. So you can kind of think of it like this. There's from the least complex to the most complex. So the least complex here is you want to do some prompt engineering. You create a workflow. You give it a single prompt and you give it a couple variables. I've shown you how to do this in videos inside of make.com. You have a couple prompts, and it's very simple, fast, direct. It gets an input. It runs an API call on ChatGPT, creates an output. Boom, your system's done. RAG is a little bit more complex in that now you're having knowledge, context, and memory. So you're having a knowledge base, and for it to respond, what's happening is it's saying like, okay, I have this prompt of like what to do. Let me go find the information in the vector database in the knowledge base, and then let me run the API call. So it's like one step. This has 2 steps to it, and then the workflows, which these could kind of be flip-flopped, but for the sake of this video, let's just say that like they're very similar. So you can have a very simple RAG system that it has one prompt, but it's pulling information out of a vector database. and it's responding based on that. And then the slightly more complex version is you are chaining these prompts together. And so what that means is you say like you have one prompt that has one thing, it's pulling from the database. You have another prompt that's taking the output from the first prompt and adding that as the input into the second prompt. So for some of the more advanced workflows, you need to chain multiple different prompts together to get your outputs. And so this is something we talked about in the prompt engineering chaining video that I've built, and I will create more videos on this in the future. But what you need to know is that like you have a single prompt, you have RAG, you have chained prompts, and then this complex workflows right here, this is really like the agents. So they're adaptive, they're dynamic. So it's like doing these workflows, but then as it's doing them, it's like you're giving it feedback and it's updating the workflows that it's doing. It's learning, it's saving what it's learning into memory, and it's adapting over time. And I think this is where we're really going to go towards the end of 2025, is we're going to have agents that are extremely adaptive, where right now like you kind of have to like do some of the programming of it yourself over time. And this is one of the core pain points that I see, is that it's like, oh, like it's actually a lot of work to train this LLM model and to like get the outputs refined. Like it's almost more effort to do that than it is to actually just do the work in the first place. But I think where we're going to get very soon in 2025 is to a place where these things become so adaptive that it takes you 5 to 10 minutes to like really provide some feedback, and then it just adapts. And over time, it's getting better and better and better. And it's even learning without you. Like it's even learning based on, like, let's say you have an agent that's responding to emails in your inbox. If it's getting like a 10% response rate or a 90% response rate, it's able to understand what a response rate is and what it means to be effective at the task you're asking it to do. And then over time, it's just like becoming better and better and better at the workflows that you want it to do for you, without you having to train it and update the modules and update the prompt engineering, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is kind of the basis of what an AI agent is. And so for some of these, I'm not going to go into the actual like workflow patterns and like some of these more complex graphics here. But what you need to know is that there's a couple things I want to go over. First is an AI's capacity for agency. So this word agent gets thrown around, but an agent or capacity for agency is essentially its ability to have a goal and to take actions and learn until it reaches that goal, right? And so like right now where we have simple algorithms, you tell it exactly what you want it to do, it will do those things. It's not going to learn. It's just going to do exactly what you program it to do. Then you have machine learning, where it's like taking a bunch of data from the internet, and it's able to predict what the next word is in a chain. That's how ChatGPT works, LLMs work. Then you have tool usage. This is where you see kind of AI automations, where you're saying, let's create this scenario in make.com or N8N or Zapier. Let's like have the AI be able to generate net new material, but let's integrate it into our current tools, softwares, workflows that we already have. But this is kind of like the workflow versus the agent diagram that we had at the beginning, right? We're at the point where we can have incredibly pretty advanced AI workflows, but they're still workflows. And so where we're heading is autonomous agents, where you give it an extremely complex goal and then it does things for you. So let's think of an example here. Let's say you like want to book a trip, right? You could have a personal agent that adapts to what you want and you tell it like, or it has maybe a knowledge base of where you went, or I don't know, you give it some sort of knowledge base here, and then it's able to say like, you say like, hey, I want to book a trip. I want it like to be under a certain price. I want to go here. And it says, hey, I like looked at all of the potential options. Here's where you can go for this price. Do you want me to book the tickets for you? And you can say like, yes, but check my calendar and make sure I don't have anything and decline any meetings on that week. And you're asking it to like any of the things that you would do to complete an objective. You're having it do it. And then it's kind of just coming back to you saying like, hey, do you actually want to book this and pay the money? Okay, boom, I booked it and paid for you, right? And so it is taking those, or it's saying like, hey, like my monitor just broke. Can you find the best price on this type of monitor. That's this, right? This is more for like the personal side of things, but you can imagine how this would be really valuable for the work type of things, right? And this is how AI is really going to take over the workforce and, replace millions of jobs. Is if you can have an agent and you're telling it like, hey, like this is the objective of what I want to solve for in my business. I want to create a marketing strategy and campaign that aligns with my tone and voice. So take all the transcripts of all of my YouTube videos, and based on the specific things that I talk about, my niche, the specific problems, reverse engineer a marketing strategy with all of these components, bring it back to me, and if it looks good, go out and implement it. And I'm just going to give you all of my ideas, and then you're just going to go out and execute on that marketing strategy. It's like having an entire marketing team without hiring a single person. So this is essentially what an AI agent is and where it's heading. And I hope this video is really helpful for you. Like this is a lot of the core ideas around AI agents. And as AI agents come onto the scene, you see people like Mark Zuckerberg, like the CEO of HubSpot, like the CEO of NVIDIA. All these people are betting big on agents. So you better bet that this is where the market is going, where the workforce is going. And if you want to, you're going to really want to know what AI agents are, how they work, and how to utilize them if you want to stay, up to date in the modern economy. And so that's really why I'm creating this training for you. I want you to both be able to stay up to date in the modern economy, being able to shift whatever work you're currently doing into one that's augmented AI. We don't want AI agents to replace everything that we do, but we want them to augment what we do so that we do it 100 times more effectively. And someone can hire you for a marketing role, and you can basically because you understand agents, you can basically take the role of an entire marketing team because you understand how to create AI employees that do work for you, right? And the other reason why I create these videos is because I want you to be able to use AI agents to pursue your mission, right? If you have meaningful problems and goals that you want to solve for people, use AI agents to help you solve those better. And it's never been easier to start a business in 2025. And it's only going to get easier with agents. So my goal with you here is to teach you how to start a one-person business using AI agents, what it actually takes, and how to actually align what your vision is with life with building AI agents. And so if this sounds interesting to you, would love to see you in the free community. So there's it's called AI Systems Mastery. We talk about how to build AI agents, how to build marketing and sales systems. Right now I'm offering free onboarding calls to anyone that joins, so we can create a blueprint, a roadmap for you for 2025 of how to learn agents, what the most necessary skills are to learn, et cetera, et cetera. And we do weekly calls as well. And so inside of this, we go into everything you need to know about more of the advanced aspects of AI agents, AI sales agents, browser-based agents, building one-person businesses with agents, the different prompt engineering skills you need to learn, marketing sales systems, and kind of like some of the mental models and perspectives and paradigms that you need to shift in order to fully, take advantage of the shift in the workforce, right? And so would love to see you in this community. Would love to book a free onboarding call with you to get to know you personally, to understand your goals, to understand how I can support you in this process. So this community is completely free. The link is in the description, and I hope that we can stay engaged with the AI agent stuff. And yeah, let me know if this was valuable. Really appreciate you watching this, and I hope that you are able to integrate some of this into your workflows.